You know, when we think about a country, we usually picture landmarks or culture. But today, we're going to look at Chile through a totally different lens, its economy, and maybe more revealingly, the cars people are actually driving. What do these numbers really tell us about what's going on there? Let's dive in.
All right, let's start with a really big number, 347 billion US dollars.
So the real question is, how does a huge national figure like that translate to daily life for the nearly 20 million people who call Chile home? That's what we really want to know.
To get an answer, we've got to zoom in a bit. We're going to take a quick pulse check on the country's financial health, and we'll go from that massive big picture number right down to what it means for the average person's wallet. Okay, here's a number that's a little easier to grasp, $17,525. Now, this is the GDP per capita. It's not what everyone earns, of course, but think of it as the average slice of that giant economic pie for each person. It gives us a much more human-scale look at the country's economic well-being.
And these three numbers right here, they tell a really powerful story about what it's like in Chile right now. You've got inflation at 3.5%, which means, everyday stuff is getting a little more expensive. An interest rate of 4.5% makes it tougher to borrow money for a big purchase, like a house or a car. And with unemployment at 8.4%, you can tell the job market is a bit tight. Altogether, these things really shape day-to-day financial life for millions.
Okay, so keeping those financial realities in mind, where do people put their money when it comes to big purchases? Well, there is no better place to look than the streets themselves to see how the economy really plays out in people's choices.
As of 2025, there are 6.6 million vehicles on the road in Chile. That's everything, from tiny city cars to those huge work trucks, the whole shebang.
And that breaks down to about one vehicle for every 3 people. I mean, just picture that for a second. On your own street or in your own family, it really shows you just how essential cars are to everyday life in Chile, for getting to work, for business, for everything.
So, what kind of cars are people buying? This is where it gets really interesting. A full 50%, half of all new vehicles hitting the road are SUVs. That is a huge chunk of the market, and it tells you that people are really looking for space, for versatility, and maybe that feeling of safety you get in a bigger vehicle.
And get this, the market isn't slowing down. Over 310,000 new vehicles were sold last year alone. That's a 2.7% jump. So even with those economic challenges we just talked about, people are still confident enough to go out and make these major purchases.
So we know people love their SUVs and pickups, but which ones? Which specific brands and models are winning on the streets of Chile? Let's take a closer look at the heavy hitters.
All right, so at the top, you've got the familiar names, right? All doing pretty well, all growing. But look down at the bottom of the list. Chevrolet, a brand that used to be a giant in the market, saw its sales tank by over 11%.
And this is where you can really see that disruption happening. Yeah, the Toyota Hilux is still king, no surprise there. But check out number 3, the GWM Pure. It's a Chinese brand, and its sales shot up by an incredible 15.4%. And you've got another Chinese brand, Chery, in the top 5 too. It's pretty clear that new players are coming in and seriously shaking things up.
So you've bought your brand new SUV or pickup truck. Awesome. But what about the cost to actually, run it? This brings us to the most important question for any driver. What's the price at the pump? Or maybe at the charging station?
Okay, before we compare the costs, we need to quickly understand a simple idea called energy equivalence. Basically, to get the same amount of driving distance, you need either 1 liter of gasoline or about 2 kilowatt-hours of electricity. Just remember that 1-to-2 ratio, because it makes our next slide a true apples-to-apples comparison.
And here it is, the bottom line. To drive the exact same distance, it would cost you $1.37 in gasoline, but only 58 cents in electricity. Charging your car at home is literally less than half the price of filling it up at a gas station.
So let's put all the pieces together. You've got these new, disruptive brands grabbing a huge piece of the market. The car market in Chile is on the verge of a huge transformation. The real question isn't if it's going to happen, but just how fast.
Fleet Mobility Today.